Hello everyone, welcome back to another podcast. And today I am in Shillong, I am in Meghalaya with a very special person. And I know some of you might be thinking, ki, since I resigned from the Congress party, has Daniel become an interviewer or a podcaster or a full-time YouTuber? The fact is that ki, I'm also enjoying my phase right now where I'm not associated with a party, but in the future I might join another political party. But for now, what I'm thinking is I want to meet people from all around Northeast India, especially outside Northeast India also, but especially Northeast India, people who are not maybe directly involved with politics, but who are associated with the socio-economic political landscape that we have. Because I feel there needs to be a connect. We can learn so much from each other and I can learn. So this is a thought of selfish thing also. I also want to meet people and learn, share ideas, and in the process I want to take people along with me on this journey. So this brings me to Shillong, Meghalaya today with Angela Rangad. Thank you so much, Angela, for hosting me in your lovely place. It's a beautiful house that you have.
Thanks Daniel. For one, I'm so happy to meet you because till now we've only been following you and your videos and your work, and it's so nice to meet in person.
Yes, because Angela and her husband Tarun, so I have known them I think since 2015-16. So it has been a long association, but only over the internet because in person we have never met. This is the first time, so it's quite surreal that I feel like I know both of you so well, but then it's like meeting you after 6 years. So but so good to know that Angela here is taking part in electoral politics. Anyways, you have been involved in politics with your various associations, which we'll talk about later. But then for the next Meghalaya Assembly elections, which is happening next year, is it happening on February?
February 2023.
So, yeah. So Angela here would be an MLA candidate, an independent candidate, but she is part of a group called the KAM group, KAM Meghalaya. So that is also a very interesting thing. I'm sure Angela would share more with us regarding that. So Angela, this is not an interview because I don't know how to conduct interviews. So basically this is a podcast where we share ideas. So please feel free to share whatever you want. So let me start with a question though. So this initiative that KAM, how do you pronounce that?
Kam. Because kam in many languages means work. So Khasi say kam, Hindi will say kam.
So it means the same thing, which is work.
Yeah, work.
Okay. So what is KAM? What is KAM, the banner under which you are contesting this election? So let us start with that.
Okay. So it's a political platform which has emerged from our struggles on the ground, from our experience in social movements. So it is an attempt to bring voices and people under this platform to participate now in the electoral forum. Till now, our work is political. We do politics, but not electoral politics. This is the first time that we're getting into the political fray, and KAM is that platform.
So, Angela, you have been part of various organizations and you have led many movements. You are also part of an organization. The short form is TUR.
Yeah.
So, because I'm afraid I'll mess up the pronunciation, so I'm not saying the full form. So, as part of that, you have been instrumental in even organizing and helping workers organize unions, worker unions, so that they're more aware of their rights as workers. So can you share a bit about that? Because I also am not very aware of how worker unions can operate and can, function?
So TUR, the full form of which is Thma Urangli Juki, which means People's War at that level. And it's pronounced as Tur. Tur in Khasi means to move forward, to surge forward. So Tur as an organization, we're not an NGO. People sometimes confuse that we're an NGO. We're not a registered NGO. We're a collective, and we collaborate with different people on different issues. But as an organization, as a collective, we have been working on several issues, from transparency and accountability to women's rights issues, and of course workers' rights. So workers' rights issues, we have been, what happened when we are doing work in the field, individual people would keep coming up with issues related to their workplace, related to their contracts, non-payment of wages, delayed wages, no leave, all of this. And at an individual level, we would be helping them out. But we realized that there's so many people who seem to be facing these issues. And so it was very important that we started talking about workers' rights and how people should claim them, So we began this campaign in such a simple way, actually. We took out a pamphlet where we highlighted what our labor laws are, what are your rights as a worker, and we were standing all over the city in various places distributing the leaflet. And with our phone numbers there, saying that if you have issues and if you would like to discuss further, please call. And so just from that small pamphlet, people started calling us. And when we met, the first lot of people were people who work in a private hospital, one of the leading hospitals here. And when you look at it from the outside, it's a thriving hospital. But obviously some of the workers there were unhappy, were disgruntled. So it was interesting because meetings with them could not happen at one go because they were workers. So they had night duty, day duty. But by having several meetings, we managed to come to consensus that yes, we need to claim our rights, and that the best way is to first organize ourselves into a union. And so that was how the first union was born at that level from our work campaign.
Okay.
And then the issues began of highlighting to management what were some of their rights that were being violated. And
so that union was part of the workers of that hospital?
Yes.
Okay.
And
it was a private hospital?
Yes. So it was really interesting because sometimes, grievances of people in a workplace may not be huge, but they remain unaddressed for so long. And they take away the dignity of a worker. And when we were talking to these people, that was much of their grievance, actually. That, we're not appreciated enough. And we're not given simple things of a decent uniform, or, people to just ask, are you okay? Are you okay working in the cold? Do you have, are you warm enough in the winter? And so we put down many of these demands, including, increase in pay, ensuring that they were registered under the ESI, that their PF was proper. And so by negotiating like that through this charter of demands that we drew up with them, they managed to secure many of their rights. And one thing that they said, that initially we felt so invisible. We weren't given time of day to discuss anything, but after we came under the collective of this union, at least, management would tell us, please come in and sit down, and what is it that you want, So that was our first union through this work campaign. But after that, several more. In fact, the security workers is one union which I really feel strongly about, because here were these young boys, many of them recruited from the villages around Meghalaya. And when we asked them, why did you come to Shillong to work, and how come you continued to work when your pay was so low, you're not getting paid on time? They said, most of us were
How much would their average pay be like?
So when we met them, many of them were getting 3,500, not even regularly.
Per month?
Yeah. And they said that we were people who are farmers, but agriculture has failed. We had to look for work, so we came here and got into these private, security agencies. And they are staying in a rented house, but because their payment was not regular, many of them couldn't pay rents, they were thrown out, And so even with them, we started charting out what are their demands and what are the issues. And many of them were actually their principal employer was central government, like Northeastern Hill University, Negrims, but they had the in-between contractor, the person who's giving them work. So there were two entities we had to deal with, but eventually using the law, negotiating, and it was also frightening for them to come under a union because they were afraid that they will lose their job, or they were getting threatened also actually. But eventually we managed to secure for them their PF and increased in their wages because they weren't even getting central minimum wage rates. And the contractor was always subtracting from what they got, as a commission, imagine. So,
were they aware of all these things, like what should be their central minimum wage and all these things?
No, not really. But
so they were working, but with little information about their own rights.
But it was so nice because suddenly there was this increase in their pay, and also they felt more secure. They could, have proper leave. So these are some of our successes with the Workers' Rights Campaign, and we've also organized unions in government departments.
That was what I was about to ask.
Yeah.
What about government departments and employees of the government departments?
So one of the biggest union in terms of numbers is the Meghalaya Electricity Corporation Limited Union.
Okay.
So their struggle began because they suddenly floated a very illegal contract, which was actually trying to tell them to sign away their rights almost. And that's how we met them.
Which rights were those?
Basically, they were going to be more under a contractual system where hire and fire was obviously at the forefront of that contract, and a yearly renewal based on, again, at the whims and fancy of management. And
yearly renewal.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a government department that we are talking about.
Because you will be surprised at the number of casual and contractual jobs that are there within government departments. And it's very sad because many people join with the hope of either getting regular employment or at least a proper pay and the entitlements of a worker. And they keep waiting and waiting. Their age does not permit them to seek employment elsewhere. And it becomes like as if they're enslaved somewhere, So with them also, it began with that contract. But when we started discussing with them, more things opened out. The realization that you can claim EL, you can claim maternity leave, you have a right to a provident fund. So that union is also doing well.
So also one thing which was quite visible, the movement which you had with the Street Hawkers Association. So because in India we see street hawkers everywhere. So street hawkers are basically jo on the roadside, they do their business, they sell their stuff. So they were facing some issues, and then you also got involved with that. So can you take us through like how it started?
Yeah. So again, under the Workers' Rights Campaign, another thing we noticed is that in Shillong, there were these very aggressive evictions that were happening. And I particularly remember one day being in Police Bazaar, and this man and his little son were, looking out like that, municipal gari has come and we're going to our saman. They were trying to hide, and this little boy was visibly frightened. And we were looking around and people scuttling and hiding, and obviously that wasn't the first time it was happening. So it was very not surprising, but for us, we felt really bad at the situation because obviously these people who were having to hide and run, it was so obvious that they were at the bottom of the economic ladder. They were struggling.
And they were just trying to earn a living through hard work and honest means, right?
Yeah. They
But
weren't
they were
begging, they weren't stealing, they were really trying, as you said, to earn an honest living. And yet, this kind of eviction and all also didn't seem to be, it seemed to be arbitrary, no? There's some days when they'll come, there's some days when they allow them to sit, some days they would come twice a day, you know? So cat and mouse game. And in Shillong city, when you look at hawking and street vending especially, the majority of them are women. Okay. And so we again did the same thing we did when we first started the work campaign. We took out a little sort of news item in the newspapers, local papers, saying that if you read this and you're a hawker and street vendor, you have rights and we would like to meet and discuss. Please call these numbers. So similarly like that, people called us. And it was, that first meeting with them was really interesting. Because you have to understand that street hawkers and vendors are people who are struggling, but they're also very independent people because they're at that level self-employed, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when they met us, they were sizing us up. Who are these now? Because I think they have already had an experience of trying to look for help from elsewhere. And that we soon learned after meeting them. So what can you do for us? I mean, you know, who are you? Where have you come from? And what can you do for us? So then we discussed. We said, you know, we think that what is being done to you is actually not right. It's an injustice and that things have to be done as per law. So can we have several more meetings and you tell us your grievances? So they were telling us the stories about how they have looked for help. They've met so many ministers. They have met different types of NGOs also. But somehow they never managed to stop the evictions or to move further. Then, of course, one urban affairs minister told them, I'll help you. You go and form an association. And she introduced them to some lawyers who were fleecing them to even form an association. You know, it's such a simple thing, but they were taking them on a, you know, roller coaster ride. So after several meetings with them, after doing our research, we realized that there was this Meghalaya Street Vendors Law and there was also a Central Act. Comparing the two, we realized that the Meghalaya Act is actually defanged and they very intentionally had removed all the enabling provisions that the central law provided for the hawkers. Then, of course, using the RTI, we also found out more from the Urban Affairs Department and other departments and realized that actually the state government was in violation of many things. There was so much communication from the central government telling state government, you know, you just now notify the rules to implement the Central Act. Why aren't you doing it? And state government very cleverly, after 9 months of the Central Act being in force, made their own act. Obviously the intention was that they didn't want to honor the spirit of the Central Act, which was not just regulation of hawking, but protection of the livelihoods of the hawkers. So we then had several meetings again with the hawkers where, you know, we were making PowerPoint presentations explaining to them, this is the Meghalaya law, this is the central law, what do you understand from this and what do you think we should do? And in the meantime, we learned that there was also a case in the High Court that was filed by a different organization who also claimed themselves to be hawkers. So we impleaded ourselves in that case because we felt that these were the real hawkers who needed to be heard. So that case was going on in the High Court already. We got impleaded. And in addition to that case, we also filed a constitutional challenge saying that the Meghalaya law is contradicting the central law, and we started demanding for the Central Act to be applied here. And that was a 6-year-long battle. It took that long. I mean, the state government was just stubborn and silly actually, because it's a waste of 6 years. So much could have been done to reorganize the city. But state government didn't want to implement the central law, and the challenge continued in court. And it's only now recently, in fact just last week, that finally the case has been disposed of, because the state government has made a submission in front of the Meghalaya High Court that they will apply the central law. So now it's up to the state government to share publicly the rules, because we can't have the rules undermining the law. It has to actually, it should have been a more participatory process. And And once the rules are in place, then all of the things that the law says that should be done, like constituting of a town vending committee, which has 40% representation of hawkers, and that town vending committee will undertake an in-situ survey, calculate the holding capacity for the town, and then start the licensing process, start demarcating hawking and no hawking zones. So that process now is something which we will have to be sort of mindful of, that it is something that is participatory and democratic and as per the law.
Mm-hmm. So at the end it was a success, but then the real challenge begins now.
Yes,
because you have to make sure that the state government, even though the High Court, right?
Yes,
has directed, but then state governments and even central government, any kind of government, they're notorious for not, listening to the orders of even the courts in the given period of time. Angela, you had even protested and fought for the employees who were not paid their salaries on time. So I remember you sat even outside the secretariat, if I'm not wrong.
That was in relation to the COVID relief that the government had announced.
That was
that was COVID relief
Achha.
For again the unorganized sector.
Okay.
The government had announced, first year of COVID, very hurriedly, that they will give a kind of COVID relief to the, and they hadn't even mentioned the amount actually. It was only through RTI that we realized it is meant to be 2,100.
Achha.
And for...
So they did not make it public.
Yeah. They just called for people to submit names, and they involved the Darbar Shnongs, which is, the localities, to take names. And at the height of COVID, people risked their lives standing in line, submitting their documents. And yet, when we first realized that this hadn't reached people, when we had a training again for hawkers on COVID. Okay, this was just before October of 2020, that was. We realized that when we asking them, did you get that money which the government promised? They said no. On and on, no. So we got the list of those people, submitted it to government and said, look, something is wrong. Something is not going right. These people have not got. Please see to it. They did nothing. So then we had to file an RTI to ask for the list of people who have been given this COVID relief. When we got that RTI, and by that time again there were lockdowns, massive lockdowns, so we couldn't even meet people to verify. Usually when you get RTI data, we actually do ground verification of that, no? So we didn't know what to do. So what we did was, using local media, social media, we put out this data and told people, please check your names. And if your name is there, against your name, if there's an amount that is booked, have you received it or not? Go and check in your banks. And these are the numbers, you please call us to inform. The phone never stopped ringing, and my phone crashed also because there were so many messages of people across Meghalaya saying my name is there but I have not got anything, or I've got only part of the payment. So we realized there was a big problem with that. And so we again wrote to government and told them, this is our finding, please do something. And we directly gave it to the Chief Minister's office also. But again, they were not serious about this. And that was what forced me finally to sit on a dharna outside the secretariat, saying that you resolve this issue. There's so many people against whose names money seems to have been transferred, they didn't get it. So you please set up a helpline and get this verified and ensure this money goes in. Because by that time the second wave had started also. And people were really desperate to get some sort of support, And here was the government taking this so lightly. So that was the background for that dharna.
How long did the dharna last for?
A week.
A week.
Yeah.
And then what was the response from the government?
So finally the government, through the principal secretary, called us for talks and said that we will direct the banks to give us reports of why this failure, because again they were trying to blame the people. That most probably they don't even know their account numbers and they've given wrong numbers. We said that cannot be true, because how can part of the payment go in and not the rest? And many people had given Xerox copies of their accounts. So maybe at data entry level, if it's wrong, then you ensure that you call that number back and you make the corrections. So they promised us that they will do that. And now we have just recently again filed another set of RTIs to verify whether again that amount which they said they have transferred has been done. Because they also promised that that remaining amount will be transferred.
So basically you have also been, in the role of an opposition, I would say.
Yes,
because
sort of.
these are some of the things which an opposition MLA or an MDC would be working for, but yeah, you have also been actively fighting for the rights of the people. And I would like to now go to this pamphlet that you are distributing as part of your campaign. And by the way, early in the morning, Angela had gone out on a house-to-house campaign, and then I met her at around 10 a.m. at her place. So are you doing this every day?
Yes.
Regularly in the morning?
I drop my children off to school and straight away go to some localities under the constituency and knock on people's door, because in the morning is when you will find people
at home.
Sometimes I feel so bad disturbing them, but apologetically I tell them, please don't mind, I've come to campaign and talk about issues. So yeah, this has been going on for more than 2 months now. But I will have to accelerate also, because it seems far away, February, but it's not, when you actually want to meet each and every person, every household at least.
So your constituency is South Shillong?
South Shillong.
Yes. And what would be the total number of voters in that constituency?
Approximately 30,000.
30,000, okay. That's like compared to our constituency, which is Haflong constituency, where I belong, we have now around 130,000 voters.
Oh,
yeah,
that's huge.
That's huge. And like in terms of Assam, it's not huge, because in Assam most assembly constituencies have bigger numbers than that, over 2 lakhs and 3 lakhs. But considering the area, because ours is like the whole district of Dima Hasao is one MLA constituency. So you can only imagine it is so difficult to cover the whole district. You have to cover one MLA. So area wise it's very difficult. So when I heard 30,000, it's like, wow.
Yeah, and
That's
also
less.
it's an urban constituency.
Urban.
So walkable.
Yeah, walkable.
I don't think we'll have too much expenditure in terms of transport and all that. As it is, we're a campaign that is being run on Chanda. So we're happy that we can walk everywhere.
Yeah, so you're crowdfunding the campaign also.
Crowdfunding the campaign.
KAM is crowdfunding. So we'll come to that also later. So but this pamphlet, so I found it really interesting. So this is what you are distributing and sharing with the constituents, right? So here, of course, you can put in your name, phone, email, address, and Angela and KAM's vision. They've also shared it in this manifesto, you can call it, right? But here,
no, this is not a manifesto really. This is a little bit, I feel that voters, people have a right to know more about me.
Okay.
They may know some parts of my life, some parts of my work, but not everything. And I think they have a right, because they're going to decide something very important. So they need to be able to cross-check my antecedents, because when it comes to elections, you will know, everybody sounds the same sometimes.
Yes,
everybody says we're against corruption, we're against this. But if you look at their work and their life, they're not people who have stood up against corruption. In fact, they have been participating in it. So this little leaflet here is trying to talk about me, my background, my educational background, and also some of the work we have done. People need to know.
Yes.
And so we distribute this, as well as a little bit about KAM. What are the values and statements, principles that KAM has been following and which we will adhere to, And in addition to that, this form.
Yeah. So this is very interesting. So there's also another level of transparency, I would say. So here you're sharing like where do you come from, you know, about your education and your early days as an activist, struggles for women's rights, marriage, companionship, and
I
children.
really wanted to put that down because people are always very curious about my marriage, you know. In fact, in some of our campaigns, whether it was when we were struggling with the village administration bill, which the KHDC was pushing, after that this lineage act, you know, my marriage has been a subject of intense debate, especially on social media platforms, precisely because there is this thing about outsider, insider. So my husband is not a Khasi. And so many people don't even know who he is and where he's from, and they just attribute all sorts of things to him and to our marriage also. So I thought that once and for all, people should at least know who my husband is, what he does, and you know, to put that to rest. Because otherwise, social media will just, instead of debating issues and concerns at state level, this will be the hot topic. So
absolutely, you know, I think this is something which I think a lot of people face in these parts of the world in politics, whereas when we should be focused about the issues, we kind of get distracted by these kind of things, and which is something which I also faced because my mother belongs to the Mizo community.
okay.
So my father is Dimasa. And my father was also a politician, but when he was alive, he also faced a lot of backlash and criticism because he married someone from outside the tribe and community. And like strangely, even though he had to battle it, my mother had to battle it, and I have huge respect for my mother because, you know, that is why I have huge respect for women because, you know, she left her community. We have a kind of like a ritual where, you know, to be accepted in the Dimasa community. So she became a Dimasa, like did the whole ritual, went to a river, and not once, couple of times, you know, once was not enough. Then in front of the holy shaman and the whole community got converted, had her name changed, had her first name changed, you know. Then she became like a Dimasa, like a proper Dimasa, and she managed it also well, you know, managed it also well, never really complained. I have never seen her complaining, and then raised her 3 children very well, raised the family very well. Then my father passed away in 2007, and then for a long time our family did not get involved in politics. My mother was part of parties and she did her work, carried on my father's work. And then when I contested in election in 2019, so the opposition groups, they made a huge hue and cry about, you know, Daniel is not a pure Dimasa because his mother is not Dimasa. And so this is something which I faced. And I did not make a pamphlet like this back then, but yes, what you said and what you shared, I think that's great. Why not? You know, you put it up front, get it out of the question.
I have never been one to hide any of these things. There's nothing to hide, nothing to be ashamed of, you know. It's I mean, sad to know that your dad and your mother face the same thing. But I think sometimes also the yardstick is very different for women and men.
Absolutely.
Women are subjected to so much questioning, and you know, whereas there are lots of our politicians right now who, you know, there's so much going on in their personal lives, but their personal life is not subjected to scrutiny like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. In the political class, I have seen like men who are powerful politicians, like there are so many people are having affairs and all, and it is open secret, everyone knows.
It's all right.
And it's all right because they have the power and money
and
right now. And they're men, yes. So but I think this is where we need to, you know, strongly speak about it, and like people like
you won't
you
believe it. Like, for instance, the hawkers issue. People should have understood that the fight was for justice for the most marginalized group. And yet there were people trying to scuttle the issue by talking about, oh, this woman is married to an outsider and now she's promoting an organization where there are outsiders also. And in fact, they're so proud of this hawker association because it is one unique, special organization where there are tribals, non-tribals, and all of them have come together because they're hawkers. They're people struggling for their rights. And as an association, they have rules and regulations of who has primary membership, who has secondary membership. They're very clear about that. But they're not communal, you know. And there have been people who have tried to divide this association by saying, oh, they're taking away your space, you're a Khasi and this and that, but they have stood up for each other. So I think that more than anything, this organization has taught us, you know, that not everybody has a communal mindset, you know, and that people can come together based on claiming their rights and other issues. But sometimes their voices are muted, whereas the ones who are trying to spread hate are so loud and cantankerous that that's what is out there. So we have to be louder, the people who are calling for, you know, people to come together and in a genuine way, not just because, again, as I said, in elections, there will be people who will, you know, like for instance, the constituency I'm running from, 19 South Shillong, is a very mixed, multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-religious constituency. And now, when elections are around the corner, you'll see Khasi, male chauvinists, nationalistic chauvinists, actually trying to pander to the non-tribal vote. But when they're going to the Khasi side, they'll be talking a different language, and this side a different language. And that is something we also have to actually challenge, because rights and justice are indivisible. It cannot be that just to gain power and gain votes, you're speaking different languages to the communities and you're ensuring that they don't come together and they don't work together. So.
Absolutely. And more power to these kind of movements which you are also a part of. And I understand that this is not an easy thing to do. You know, it takes a lot of, it drains a lot of energy, and you have to be positive at the end of the day, you know, like to do it with love. And the other side, when the hate is so loud, it does take up a lot of energy. And I think, but with support, I think we can go ahead. And definitely. Like, even though we have never met before, but I feel like we are also connected in that way, that support system, you know. And your husband Tarun also, like, he has always been a huge supporter of my work and have helped me in the initial days when I had just, you know, started out with my work, which got a lot of criticism because, you know, when Mr. India song came out, and many people were not ready to accept it. So, but the idea was to spread these kind of messages only, of unity, of love, progressive, uniting ideas. But it is very easy to be attacked, and then, you know, like, very easy you can be attacked and labeled, and some group will be like, okay, oh, you are saying this against my group, you are favoring that group, that kind of thing happens. So yeah, support system can take you a long way. Yeah, this pamphlet, I'm stuck with this pamphlet because here you are also distributing this, and you are asking your constituents, like, what are the major issues confronting Meghalaya? So number one is, in your view, how important are the following issues? Rate it between 1 and 5, circle it. 1 is not so important and 5 is very important. So here you have number 1, corruption, employment, quality of education, ethnic tension, criminal takeover of politics, gender-based violence, women's participation in local self-government, unfair job recruitments. I think this is quite a big issue. Communalism, unfair contracts, bad infrastructure, expensive health care, environmental crisis, and any other. So I think that way you are also giving them an exercise, which is, I think, good, because, for example, even me, if someone gives me that, now I'll think which one I'll rate first to low, because I've also not done that. Even me, even as we speak about, okay, what are the problems? We talk about corruption, unemployment, but I would also like to do this exercise of let's rate, how we think. Of course, there's no one correct answer, but still that way people are also exercising, their thought process in that sense.
No, because for instance, sometimes people misunderstand what the role of a MLA or MDC or public representative is. Sometimes the focus is so much on just that 2.5 crores of MLA fund. And in fact, I was ardently following your videos when you were going around checking infrastructure of schools and other infrastructure around. Because I think physical infrastructure is important, but many times representatives do only that for two reasons. One, it's visible. The other is that it's very easy, I think, to fill up your pockets by doing quality work, of infrastructure. And it's easy to woo the voters that, oh, I've brought a road, or I've once again, every 5 years, repaired your nala. But over and above these things, first of all, we need to understand that it is our money going in there. So we need to decide also what kind of infrastructure, and we need to know the quality of it. We need to know how much is being used, how much really has gone into the work, how much into, these are never declared, isn't it? How much sanctioned for a particular work. And yet, especially now, there's a rush of doing more infrastructure work to woo voters. But we need to, I think, educate ourselves that first of all, this is public money. We need to decide what kind of works. And this is not the only work that an MLA and MDC ought to be doing. What about policies and laws? We need to actually, almost I'm tempted to file an RTI on all the 60 MLAs, especially the ones who have been there for long, for 15 years. How many laws have they pushed?
Absolutely.
How many policies? Because these are long-standing. They will actually impact our lives much more. It will become a right which we can claim, and a right which we will be able to access every day. For instance, healthcare. Are there really accessible medicines, diagnostic tests in our PHCs and civil hospital dispensaries? Do they have medicines which, if I go there, I don't have to pay for? But nobody actually fights for these things. They are happy to maybe hand out, if I'm sick, I run to an MLA almost like a slave to demand or to ask for a little bit of money. And that never suffices. And you're embarrassed to go second time also. But the duty of that representative was to ensure that with dignity you walk into a civil hospital and you're not afraid that you're sick because you will be saddled with a big bill. Or to ensure that education is not so expensive, or that school books and uniforms are something which general public can access easily, comfortably. But these are not the things that they want to engage in, because I think it takes time, it takes effort, and they're not something which can easily just win over people.
What are your views on unfair job recruitment? So you have listed that among the issues, right? Unfair job recruitment. So even in our council, that's a huge issue. You will see youth nowadays, whenever an exam notification comes for jobs, on social media also you will see people directly commenting, and it is so saddening to see that. They would say, what's the use? The job has already been booked, and they know it's a fact, and that is why people are saying that openly. So what do you think? What are the suggestions and ideas that you would propose that, how can we amend some of the laws and come up with fair job recruitments? How do you think, where does the issue lie?
Yeah, the issue lies in abuse of power at all levels, Sometimes it's not just politicians, it's bureaucrats who are at that level capturing these jobs. I don't know if this is implemented in your district in Assam, But the district selection committee, for instance, no, about fourth grade jobs and third grade jobs, there's a process by which people sit for exams, interview, and lists come out, and then from there they're recruited into several departments. So I'll just tell you a story about this, because this was again another victorious campaign of people coming together and claiming their rights. There were 700 people who had cleared their DSC exams, and the list has come out and they are waiting for appointments, and it's not happening. The list was going to lapse, so every time it was going to lapse, they would come out on the street and protest, and then they would give an extension to that list. Now, how many times can they do that? They did it maybe twice, and after that somehow we met with them, they filed RTIs, when we realized that in most departments were full of actually backdoor entry. And we then compared those backdoor entry jobs with actually this list, and we said that you have to now employ these people across these departments. And they sat on hunger strikes and on strikes till the last person got their job. But this should not be the way, isn't it? The process should have been clear, transparent and fair from the beginning. Which means that there should also be a system.
So the ones who got the backdoor entry, did they also appear for the exam and the interview?
No, they were already filled up, these places, when we found out through the RTI.
Okay.
So then actually departments ought to be notifying vacancies, potential vacancies. It can be so easily systematic, a database maintained, that you know that this department will require these staff by next year, by next year, and accordingly you conduct those exams. Those exams should be fair, transparent. In fact, we were demanding that even at level of interviews, there should be in-camera interviews, because people feel that they get cheated a lot. They may have done very well in the written, and in the interview, because they're already fixing somehow.
So this is an issue which we are facing a lot. For example, in our district now, after a lot of hue and cry, so now whenever the job appointments come out, it is duly notified. But then the first process is mostly written exam, and then there will be the interview. So the interview is where people are complaining the most, that where the problem arrives, because the committee which is formed to do the interview, there, you know, the elected leaders, sometimes politicians would be biased, there, and department people, few will be there. So there's no transparency there. So on camera thing, this is something which I had also suggested, so like let there be a camera. No, they have not implemented it. That would be difficult, right? If they do it, then everything would be, you know, too transparent maybe. But this is something which needs to be done. So if it is passed by the council and this is how we recruit, you know, then that would go a long way. And even in the written exam, there's one idea which I had. So say it is multiple choice, and in today's time we can have multiple choice, you know, that is enough, right? And then you let the people take the answer sheet with you, and on the day of when you announce the results, you put those answers also, you know, put it out there.
Should be there.
So then people can, you know, check and make sure that okay, the marks which reflect it is correct, you know.
And in fact, I'll tell you, there was again another RTI, early days of RTI, when there was a person who had appeared for the MPSC exams and he didn't clear. So he said, I want to know why, because I felt I did well. So it was a big struggle, because RTI was still new. So when we asked for answer scripts, initially they were saying that we don't fall within the purview of RTI, we can't give. But we had a very good information commission then. And information commission finally we reached the High Court, and High Court actually declared that you cannot hide information, and you have to, if a candidate asks for his own answer script, he has every right to see. So that was again another court victory, you know, and from then on many people have used RTI to at least know their own performance. You can't ask the second person's answer script, but you can ask for the spreadsheet of, say, everybody's marks and all that, but not the answer script, but your own answer script at least you can see. So you can compare, as you said, to the answer key, and you would know how you fared, no?
Okay. So that through the RTI you can get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, you are also asking people about the major issues confronting your constituency, their constituency, cleanliness, housing, quality of education, drugs, ethnic tension, gender-based violence, electricity. You know, these are more localized in that area.
Yeah.
And
Everyday problems, you know, almost.
yes, yes. And of course, you are also asking, did you vote in the last MLA election?
Yes.
You know, many people don't vote, and especially many young people don't vote. What are your feelings about your current MLA? Bored, happy? I like that option, bored. Happy, angry, I don't care. But bored would be interesting. Would you vote in the next elections? How do you choose your MLA? This is also very important and interesting. I don't vote for the person, I vote for the party. I know him or her personally. I like his or her public speaking, his or her educational background. My friends told me to vote for him or her. My family told me to vote for him or her. He or she had a reputation of honesty, his or her experience. I got scheme from him or her. So I think, yeah, these are introspective questions which would, I think, be good for the constituents and the voters, you know, to reflect on. Because many people, of course, vote on the suggestion of their friends and family members. But then is that the right thing to do without knowing yourself, like if you're voting for the right person?
Like there are stories here, no? There once these people we know, they said, you know, we feel so indebted to the sitting MLA. This was in another constituency, because you know somehow he helped my eldest son get a job. But the person who's contesting against him belongs to our clan. So we're feeling very divided what to do. So we have had a family meeting and we've decided that out of 5 of us, 3 will go this way and 2 will go this way. So that's fair. So we're hoping that our campaign, you know, it's not elections as usual for us. The process itself has to be a challenge to the current status quo. And so the process itself should be something which pushes both the electorate as well as the contestants, that we have to raise the bar at all levels, you know. So as you said, for the electorate also, I think that we need to use this occasion to push for a reflexive process of what kind of a voter have I been? Am I really engaging freely in this democratic process, or is it just a 5-year carnival? So those things matter, and that itself for us, I feel, will bring some change, you know, some difference in the way elections are done.
And what are the plans? Like, is it planning to be a full-fledged party in the future, or maybe that you have not thought of so much for now?
No, actually for us we really believe in this idea that things have to emerge ground up. It has to be a more organic growth. If we wanted, for instance, to immediately just register as a political party, it's possible. You get some signatures and you run to Delhi and you get it done. But we feel that we want people who will finally be part of KAM to be people who also believe in the ideals and the vision of KAM. Because I think most political parties, even the top honchos, don't know what their ideology is, or if they have one at all. So we hope that this will be a electoral political movement that will grow, and it will chart its own course. We hope that if it is to be a political party, more people come, so be it. You know, maybe by the next election we will have more you know, people contesting. And in fact, rural areas of Meghalaya is also very important and dear to us. We have lots of friends and people who we've worked with. And in fact, this time around also, we were hoping to have people from different districts. But because we are people who are, as I said, running this campaign on contributions, many of the people we know who for years have been part of our movements would be great people to represent their community and their constituency, but they're people who are not in a position monetarily to begin an electoral challenge. And us as a group, we may not be able to raise that many funds for everyone. So those have been considerations for, as of now, having 3 contestants, but hopefully it will grow and hopefully people will take it forward. We believe that it is a platform where there should be at that level a kind of electoral training for people, as volunteers, and they become the 2nd rung, 3rd rung leadership that will take this forward.
So has KAM zeroed in on some ideologies?
So the ideology of KAM is something that actually all of us, because all 3 of us are people who have been involved in social justice movements. And so very clearly for KAM, we are a group that first and foremost does not believe and will, no matter what it takes, even if it means us standing alone, we have to stand up against hate politics, communalism, corruption, and when it comes to healthcare, education, the environment, we're very clear about which side of the divide we're on. Healthcare and environment is something which we feel the government has abdicated its responsibility. They're trying to just throw it to private players, which means that most of people cannot access these. So we're very clear that government has to play a more proactive, more solid role in these sectors. When it comes to jobs, we believe that transparency and accountability is something that has to be applied across sectors, especially when it comes to the youth and ensuring jobs for them. And also the economy, for instance. We're very certain that we don't believe that the right way forward for Meghalaya is to just cash in on an extractive economy. That will be the death of the state. Our hills, our rivers will be decimated. We believe in an economy of sufficiency, that every person ought to have a fair access to earn, to have dignity of life, and there is a big responsibility of the government in this. Job creation, There's an exodus now from here actually. Most people who are educated, even graduates, postgraduates, are just leaving the state for want of jobs. And when they're outside, the cost of living is so high, the jobs are not necessarily well paying. So what are we doing, to ensure that we keep, people who want to be here, give them an opportunity to earn, to have a decent life. So those are, I don't know if you would call those ideology, but it's very clear which, what our focus is on,
When it comes to corruption, I think from my own experience, I find it very challenging because I feel a lot of voters, like the public, they go hand in hand because I think outright we say कि corruption is bad, वैसे तो हम लोग बोलता है, but then we kind of accept it, we have accepted it also. And then when there are some people who genuinely want to point out where the corruption is happening and where we should plug it, very little support comes in their way. I have also faced that. For example, me being an elected member of the council, so many a times I have not just said that corruption is happening there and there, I have like given out proofs, with documents and everything. Because documents, people nowadays have such short attention span. Like you post a document, not many people will read it. So I made a lot of videos also, vlogs also, so that it will be accessible even to young people also, people of all age groups across everywhere. So yeah, people have seen it and all. People kind of know and accepted that this has happened, but then they would still accept those leaders and go tomorrow, receive them, put garland over them, call sir, madam, everything and all that. Like it's normal. Then, of course, first you think, theek hai, they are in power. So everyone in today's time, people have become so much dependent on the government somehow. Whether they get something or not, they feel like we have to be dependent on the government. So I can sense that kind of fear is also there, and helplessness is also there. What to do, like tomorrow if a better government, non-government comes, I will also respect that, but for now I have no choice. I have to respect the position, so that's why I'm doing it. I don't endorse it. So that is what they will try to show. But then it makes you doubt, right? Then why should you also, when everyone is thinking like that, am I the odd one out, trying to understand something which no one wants to in fact address or even understand anymore? So these are some of the doubts which I question and struggle with also every day. And slowly I think I'll get more clarity. But of course I'm not generalizing things. I know there are a lot of people who also feel strongly about it, and sometimes we might think we don't see them, so we might think, okay, where are they? But I think there are people. I do get a lot of support, and through social media also I get to read comments. They send me messages and they're like, Daniel, keep doing what you're doing. It might take some time, but keep doing. So that keeps me going. But to be very honest, sometimes I do question, because I see people I know, right? My relatives, my friends, like educated people, they know the facts, but then they will tell me, Ki Daniel, you're doing a good job, but then they would just accept the way the corruption which is happening and all.
No? We have to keep being those voices and keep speaking, because otherwise, if there's a lull or total silence, then that normalization of it becomes not just normalization, it becomes as if you don't see it as corruption anymore. And that is really dangerous. And for us, I think we have to expand this idea of corruption. Corruption, sometimes people think just money, but we have to widen the definition that it's about abuse of power. So abuse of power allows you to not just steal public funds, it also allows you to stop this boy here who has done well, who's worked hard, from getting a job which is actually rightfully his. So we have to communicate it like that to people. For a BPL family, corruption will mean that they don't get proper PDS and rice. Their children are stunted because the ICDS program has collapsed because of corruption. But for a middle class person, those things may not matter to them. They may be able to secure their everyday food. But it matters to them because their road they're driving on has potholes, and that is because of corruption. The boy who, as I said, should have got a job, didn't get a job. The promotion which was due to you, you didn't get it. So people have to understand that it affects all of us eventually. And keeping quiet is not the answer. It will not go away, on its own. And at all costs, we have to keep trying to present that alternative. That it is possible to do things differently. We can't take things lying down, ki this is the way it is, there's no choice, there's no alternative, everybody is like this. No, everybody is not like this.
Yes.
There are more people who are not like this. The powerful and the ones who have captured power are very few, but they're united in this loot.
I agree with that completely. This is something which I have also said in the past, that I feel like putting even politicians aside, and people in power, like in general, people. I think people who are honest and earn an honest living and honest life, there are more actually. People who are corrupt and who, like you said, the definition of corruption, not just money but abuse of power, they're actually few. Majority of people are actually living a non-corrupt life. But then the few are united, and so they have the power in their hands. And the majority, they are more, but then they have kind of accept it in most cases, and especially in this part of the world.
So we need to keep doing what we're doing and encouraging others to do it, because things matter, like what we say and what we do in our everyday life and what we communicate, and these small challenges which we pose also matter. it may not be that something collapses now, that system of corruption collapses now, but we're chipping away at it. And that matters. It matters. It matters not just because we have to obviously challenge corruption, but it matters because there are also people watching us. And by people watching us, I mean the young people, our children, the next generation. If they see us giving up, how will we show our faces to them, you know? They will curse us as the so-called ancestors, that what have they done, you know? So I think we should draw strength from that, that what we're doing actually matters. And we will keep at it, keep at it. We have also, I mean, you also have met with successes in your campaigns, and we also, and I think that it's possible. And as you said, if we can manage to also build bridges and solidarities across states, across districts, across communities, so much can be done, you know.
I truly believe that it can be done, and that is why I am also trying to encourage more young people to be actively involved in politics. You know, I hate it when people say ki, oh, I'm not into politics, okay, I'm apolitical. Apolitical. And it is becoming very common here now ki matlab they don't use the word apolitical, but hum to politics mein nahi hai, haan. I don't like, how are you not in politics, you know? Like
your everyday life is politics.
Your everyday life is politics. Yes.
That you make, whether you're taking your car out or you're going by bus, whether there's public transport or you're stuck in traffic, it's a political choice, isn't it? It's actually, it is politics. Yeah. It's about struggle with power, no?
So if you are saying, okay, I'm not into politics, I'm apolitical, you are actually, no, you are political. You are in fact siding with the people who are abusing power. Yeah. Because you are saying you are feigning that ignorance thing. I'm not part. By not being part and not, you know, realizing what is happening, then you are also contributing to the problem. So yes, I agree that it is possible to have success with progressive politics. I'm very thankful for people of Haflong also who have, you know, put their faith on me. And, you know, whenever we talk about politics here, it ends up, you know, the talk ends up about being money at the end of the day, you know. So even now, people are already asking me, like, have you arranged enough money for your next election, you know? Even though in the last election, I also did crowdfunding, and then I've been very vocal about, you know, not making elections about taking money, distributing money and stuff. And even in my last party, Congress party, this is something which I really struggled with a lot, because even like-minded colleagues who were much younger, their heart was in the right place, but they genuinely thought ki matlab, you know, money is the most important factor, and they also did not have money, so they spent a lot of their time, you know, thinking about how to arrange money. And that is where I think a lot of time was being wasted, and which is still being wasted. Whereas I think it can be done. It is difficult, but then you will have to think of it in a different kind of way, and I think you have to embrace it also. That's what I'm feeling, because where does the lure of money comes from? You know, like look at Meghalaya. The politics is mostly funded by coal, you know, and all the natural resources. Exactly what is happening in our district also. So our district right now, the politics, people who are in power, they are mostly funded by coal money, river stone money, natural resources, you know, all those. So, but you know, I think the new generation of politicians will also have to accept ki matlab, you know, how I live my life and how I manage money, you know, like how with, you don't need to be a super crorepati, you know, to be able to manage your constituents and of your own lifestyle also. I think that mindset has to come about, you know. So I think it's a slow process, but I'm very sure that it will be on the right.
I think it's happened.
It's happening.
Also.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
happening.
Your story is one, you know, which I mean inspires. Then recently in elections across the country, we have seen that there have been people who have tried to fight against money power and muscle power and have emerged victorious. So it's very much possible. So the first thing I think which we need to get rid of is this thing of doubt and fear in our minds, that it's not possible. And I mean, sometimes people look at us and think these people are so foolish, that they don't know anything. They are social activists, they're very dumb, they don't know what elections are about. And they will soon learn. You can see that in people's
Not just
faces.
elections, they also think they don't know what is life. Reality is different. These are all.
You all are dreaming of utopia, you're all that. No, but the thing is, we're not stupid. We know that in elections there will be some expenditure, but you can question what kind of expenditure, isn't it? Obviously, to print these things we need money.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we're having meetings the whole day, we will need to eat and have pani and all that.
Rent out equipments,
Yeah.
fuels.
So those things I think are logical, real expenditure, the expenses of which have to be met and will be met through honest sources. And we will, like in life also, we have to live within our means. Even in elections, that should be the mantra, isn't it?
Yes.
Do what you can and how much you can. And beyond that, ensure that you don't become crooked and twisted just to meet that. So like in the door-to-door, in fact, we are not having to feed anybody. People are feeding us, and that is so heartening. People coming up and just giving us small contributions, which means so much more. And we definitely don't want huge endorsements, because elections, wherever it is, whether in America or India or Meghalaya, obviously we'll have to raise funds. But the short circuit way of raising funds is you go to some rich contractors or some big company and they endorse you and they fund your campaign. And then you're beholden to them for the rest of your political life, not just your term. And that's where the unfair and illegal contracts then begin. So even for us, when we're raising funds, we're very conscious of the fact that I'm sure there will be people who try and buy us off or say we want to support you or whatever. But we are going to be very clear that we don't want that kind of money, because we don't want to be beholden to anybody, and we want to be able to have that independence and freedom to speak truth, to work honestly, and to raise issues as and when and wherever required, So that's the way forward, I think.
Angela, I mean, there are so many things I want to talk about more also and share and know more, but as the thing goes, that we always have limited time, and I think closer to the election, maybe I would want to know more and maybe ask some tough questions and not questions, but know from you. Today we did not touch upon your views on some parties, like what about BJP, what about NPP and all that. I think we'll keep it for later. I would want to do a round two actually, where we would talk about these parties, their performances in Meghalaya, in Shillong. Overall, how do you identify with some of their workings, or you don't, these kind of things?
I can give you a quick answer to
that
and
would
I
be
should
good.
Actually,
and
because
maybe
I am an independent candidate from KAM platform. So KAM, we have very clearly laid out what are our values and principles. We are not going to move from those values and principles. They're things which have guided us in our work before this, and we will continue to do so. Now, when you ask me about the political dispensations that are there in Meghalaya, as I said, we're not going to align or work with any party that is based on hate politics. No, that is number one. We believe that we have to strengthen regionalism. That is true, because regional aspirations and local contexts and issues need to be understood and fought for and worked on. So regionalism is important, but not a regionalism that just regional parties that just support national parties because of their opportunistic gains. That is what has happened in Meghalaya. You have regional parties supporting, NPP or other formations, and for very, very selfish and opportunistic gains, self gain, not even party. So this is something we're against. And people often question that what can you do as an independent, you know? But we feel that as independents, the way current politics is being played out in Meghalaya, we will be more effective and more powerful, and will be able to raise issues and take people's voices, you know, much more loudly and clearly and without compromising as independents, rather than joining any of the political parties that are there right now. Some are propagating hate, and most of them are just opportunistic groups, you know. So that's the reality of Meghalaya and party politics right now.
So if the candidates of KAM emerge victorious, then all of you would like strongly, confidently maybe stay as independent candidates and do your work as an elected MLA, right?
Yeah, and we don't feel alone, no?
If you're not happy with the parties, with their workings, then you would not get into an alliance just for the sake of holding some power.
No,
right?
not at all. Or just propping them up. And one thing, you know, like people think that you're powerless as independents. But I look at some of our work, even outside the electoral forum, okay? We have managed to push so many legislations, whether it was the Women's Commission law, or the RTI, or the Lokayukta, you know, or talked about the Social Audit Act. We were not legislators, but as activists, because people were with us, we were able to push these legislations. So now as legislators, knowing that the people are with us, we know that we will be able to, at that level, push more policies and laws. Very much possible. You know.
Because that is proper legislation is actually the key work of MLAs. I think people misunderstand that. People think, oh, MLA matlab that MLA will give me job. You know, that MLA will give me contracts, schemes. That MLA will build our roads. Even building infrastructure is not the job of an MLA or an MP. It is actually goes down to the, you know, if you have a municipal corporation or in some
local
cases,
self-governance,
like if you have a PWD department, you know, they are the ones who would, you know, do the work and do the thing. Of course, at the end of the day, MLA or MP will have a glance, but it's not their job also. And if we want better governance, we should make everyone accountable. You know,
and everyone participate from the beginning in the decision also
of
what has to be done. So there's a curious thing nowadays, you know, that by law, because whatever funds that the MLA is getting is actually public funds. So there was initially in India this habit, no, of writing MLA's names across nalas and tankis and whatever they give. So then that was outlawed. It's illegal to put the name. You can write the year, so that for transparency's sake, MLA scheme, whichever year. So now some MLAs have tried to skirt this by not saying that given by so-and-so MLA. They use the word recommended by. Okay. So I find that hilarious and quite an insult to us as a public, because how dare a person recommends? It's public funds, it's public works. We the people are recommending, we the people are demanding, and that is our work actually.
So I was not aware of that. So actually you should not be putting your names.
Your name, you cannot.
And so that can be applied to the councils as well?
Yes.
The autonomous councils
Any
also?
public funds are public funds. For transparency's sake, please put down the year of when that scheme, that work was undertaken. But not say recommended by so and so, so that their names are all over the place.
You know, this is something which out here we don't write recommended. It is all inaugurated and everything. So now what has happened is like everywhere it is littered. You're not even building a new road.
Yes.
An old road has been repaired. Roads will be repaired, right? Repaired many times. Even to repair a road now, an inauguration stone.
Yeah.
The CEM's name, chairman's name, MLA's name, 4 or 5 EM's name, and these kind
And
of
that itself also costs money unnecessarily.
and these kind of stones are now everywhere, like a light post, with a light post. So this is something which I was like, when you go to like developed countries, and developed in the sense ki like they are doing their work really properly, na? Like good roads and everything, like I don't see any stones mentioning the politician names who have made this, but wonderful infrastructure.
Yeah.
But you cannot find the stones. Out here, we find stones everywhere. Work is in fact not up to the mark. But then this is something I was not aware of at all.
Yeah.
So now that you have mentioned.
We should actually
Yes.
file cases against this,
That is why today while walking also, I saw जैसे कि footpath का कुछ ना, so some scheme name is there. So but I did not see names of any.
But in some constituency, especially mine,
Okay.
the names are all over. The smallest work to the biggest work. It's like self-promotion,
Yeah, it becomes like that. No, like see, thanks to me, I am your leader and I have given you this.
Yeah.
Otherwise you are not
As
getting
though
it.
you're a king of sorts. And it depends on your mood and your when and how and to whom you're giving.
Yeah.
And that's why. So KAM actually really, as I said, we are obviously anti-corruption and all that. But the other more positive emphasis which we want people to understand is that eventually we have to struggle and fight for the greater common good. It cannot be that electoral politics also gets captured not just by the MLA, sometimes by the coterie around also, isn't it? That they mete out schemes and give things only to people who have supported them or their close followers. That is not what it is. It should be always for the greater common good.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the politics cannot be like, as we call in local language, like workers. The workers को कैसा खुश रखेगा? Are you keeping your workers happy? So this question can sometimes even confuse and corrupt people with good intention. They will also start thinking, they have helped me so much, them I have to help. So, but like you said, it has to be for the greater good, because ultimately that will help everyone. Everyone.
And we have to remember this, if there's even a single person, a single family left behind, we as a society cannot move forward. We cannot progress, we cannot develop. So if the emphasis continues to be, this kind of selective way of meting out development, development which actually we should define first. We should decide what kind of development we want. If we don't emphasize on that and start building our policies and laws in that direction, we will stagnate. It's already happening, and we will not be able to move forward. So we cannot leave even a single person behind.
Angela, thank you so much for this wonderful lesson, I would say. Many things I've learned from you, and wish you all the best in your campaign.
Thanks.
And I would like to, like I said before, I'd like to do a part 2. And when the election is over, regardless of the results, but all our best wishes that you'll be successful in the result also. But then politics is always, the kind of politics which we are talking about and you are talking about, is not just an election result oriented thing.
Right.
Of course. So, but whatever be the result, after that, because I know now you'd be busy, I invite you to Haflong.
Yes,
Come to
would love
Haflong,
to come
to Dima Hasao,
over, yeah.
Spend some time over there, maybe a week to like relax after the elections are over.
Or maybe get involved with your campaign, because
Yes,
by that time,
by the
busy
time my
campaigning.
campaign and our campaign would also start, and of course I would be also keenly following KAM's campaign over the course of the next few months. I would be, not just me, I think a lot of people would be drawing inspiration of how you go ahead. And with that, I would also like to share that Angela and her 2 more candidates of KAM, they are also doing a crowdfunding campaign. And are there websites or social media pages where people can follow your campaign?
Yeah, we have a website. You can
Okay.
maybe, I think if you just Google KAM Meghalaya,
Yes.
you'll come across.
KAM
Yeah.
KAM Meghalaya, KAMmeghalaya.in, and if you can Google just KAM Meghalaya, I think you'll find it. And yes, so this kind of movements we all need to support, and a lot of people supported me also when I crowdfunded my campaign back in 2019. So I urge some of the people who have contributed and helped me that any contribution helps. The amount is not the main thing. Any kind of contribution helps, and Angela and her mates are also very transparent with the work that they do. So I'm pretty sure, like, once they communicate, you would also be able to share your campaign and your ideas with them. So I feel we all need to help each other. ऐसा नहीं कि मतलब oh, this is Meghalaya का election, I'm from Assam, what do I care? I don't think we should all care for better politics. Like in my campaign, it's a Dima Hasao ka autonomous council hai, but so many people from outside Assam, contributed and helped, and I'm sure there will be a lot of help coming in from all of you people. So thank you for watching. I think this was a long podcast, but I feel it is quite short. We need to do this again next time, maybe with Tarun also together, and with Ruhi, my better half. She's also missing today. So thank you once again, Angela.
Thanks,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All the very best for your campaign.
Thank you. And all the best to you too.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.